freeing Israeli hostages it holds and end of Gaza war, welcoming US President Donald Trump's call for Israel to stop bombing the Palestinian territory.
I want to thank the countries that helped me put this together: Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and so many others.
Trump hails Hamas's statement and thanks Arab nations including Qatar, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Jordan for mediating, calls it a big day, saying he looks forward to the hostage release. Munich airport forced to suspend air traffic over suspected drone sightings for the second consecutive night. Disruption leads to cancellation of dozens of flights, affecting more than 6,000 passengers. President Zelensky accuses Russia of launching major attack on Ukraine's gas facilities just before heating season, says 35 missiles, including ballistic ones, were used in the strikes, calls for Russia to be held accountable. British police say the man who launched a car ramming and stabbing attack on Manchester synagogue may have been inspired by Islamist extremism. 2 people were killed and 3 others were seriously wounded in the attack. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says U.S. forces carry out strike on alleged drug smuggling boat off the coast of Venezuela, killing 4 people, which brings the number of such attacks to 4, leaving at least 21 people dead. U.S. government shutdown is set to extend into next week after the Senate once again votes down a funding plan put forward by Trump's Republican Party. This marks the 4th failed attempt to end the stalemate. Japan's ruling party to pick its 5th leader in 5 years under pressure from rising anti-immigration party. Frontrunners are China hawk Sanae Takaichi, who could be first female prime minister, and inexperienced but popular Shinjiro Koizumi. And Sean Diddy Combs sentenced to more than 4 years in prison for prostitution-related crimes, capping a dramatic all-day court hearing during which the music mogul apologized and begged for mercy. President Trump believes Hamas is ready for lasting peace. The US president told Israel to stop bombing Gaza after Hamas group declared it was ready to free hostages under his ceasefire plan. Hamas welcomed parts of Trump's proposal while hinting at resistance regarding other sections. The group said it was willing to release all remaining hostages in return for an end to the war and a full Israel withdrawal. But while it accepted parts of the Trump proposal, Hamas insisted that additional negotiations are needed to finalize the terms. But Trump appeared to be embracing the Hamas response as a win, issuing a video statement from the Oval, calling it a big day and thanking U.S. allies including Qatar, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Jordan for mediating.
If the occupation ends and the Palestinians control themselves and there is a Palestinian state, Hamas no longer gonna have any kind of weapon. That mean they're gonna receive all. They sent all of the capabilities and to the Palestinian Authority. That's what we said from the beginning. We don't need the weapon if there is no occupation.
So shared the Hamas statement on his social media in an almost unheard of move for US President as did the White House. Earlier in another Truth Social post, Trump told Israel to immediately stop the bombing of Gaza. Trump posted on Truth Social, and I quote, "Based on a statement just issued by Hamas, I believe they are ready for a lasting peace. Israel must immediately stop the bombing of Gaza so that we can get the hostages out safely and quickly." Hamas also agreed to hand over power in Gaza to a body of Palestinian technocrats, but added that the issues over Gaza's future should be discussed within a comprehensive Palestinian national framework, which Hamas will be part of. That sounds like a rejection of Trump's plan for a board of peace, which he would chair himself, to guide a technocratic government in Gaza. The statement also did not mention Hamas's disarmament, another key point of the plan. A senior Hamas official later said the group would not disarm before the Israeli occupation ends. Israeli Prime Minister's office says that it was seeking the immediate implementation of the plan to free Israeli hostages in Gaza. However, the US media news outlet Axios reported that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had been surprised by Trump's response and that it viewed Hamas's statement as failing to meet key aspects of Trump's peace plan. Netanyahu was alongside Trump as he unveiled the 20-point peace plan at the White House on Monday and said, at the time, Hamas must stick to all the elements of the plan. Trump had also given a deadline of late Sunday for Hamas to respond to the peace plan or face hell. Mr. Giorgio Cafiero is the CEO and founder of Gulf State Analytics and a professor at Georgetown University. He is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Cafiero, good to see you and welcome to the program. Hamas did respond, but it's not what Netanyahu and Israel expected. The group has said they will release hostages as long as Israel stops bombing Gaza. Trump hails it as progress. Your reaction?
Yeah, thanks for having me on your program. I think that many people are, with good reason, optimistic that we might be on the verge of ending or at least freezing this conflict in Gaza. This could lead to, a serious improvement in the overall humanitarian situation if the Israeli attacks cease and a ton of humanitarian aid, food, medicine can flood the enclave. There are some sticking points, though, this issue about Hamas disarming, and then also questions about the sequencing of the hostages being released and Israel withdrawing from the ground in Gaza. I think, though, if Trump is determined to put pressure on Netanyahu, the Israeli leadership will have no choice but to go along with what Trump wants. Of course, that's a big if. Netanyahu is probably not happy at all with this. The fact that Trump has received Hamas's response very positively, I have to imagine the Israeli prime minister is not happy about that. There are probably, well, I'm sure that right-wing figures in the Israeli cabinet are also very upset about this. I have no doubt that they will try to obstruct the implementation of this. But if Trump puts pressure on Israel, they will have to go along with it. So that's how I see things right now.
Cafiero, Hamas says issues over Gaza's future should be discussed within a comprehensive Palestinian national framework, which Hamas will be part of. The group also says occupation by Israel must end. Your reaction?
Yeah. Well, Hamas has actually maintained this position for quite some time, saying that they're willing to hand power over to a Palestinian entity other than Hamas under certain circumstances. So this is not necessarily new. Now, where there is a little bit of a sticking point has to do with the fact that Hamas is indicating, and well, they've said outright that they would want to still be one party that has a seat at the table and that they would still want to have influence in Gaza. Now, obviously those in Netanyahu's cabinet who have vowed to fight this war until Hamas is totally eradicated will probably object to the idea of Hamas having quote unquote influence in Gaza. What that influence would look like, that remains to be seen. But yeah, I think it's also important to point out that for Trump, from the standpoint of Trump and his own political interests, he really wants to make good on his campaign pledge from last year to be the American president who is able to bring peace to Gaza. Not saying I am convinced that that's what's going to happen, but after his administration has not succeeded in winding down the Ukraine conflict, the administration did not succeed in reaching a new nuclear deal with Iran. I think there's a huge incentive that Trump has to try to, at minimum, create the optics of bringing peace to Gaza. And we should also point out that there's a lot of pressure on Trump domestically. The American public is not in favor of continuing this war that America, in which America is financing the war on Israel's side. And even in Trump's own right-wing circles, there's growing opposition to this war. There are more prominent figures in the conservative movement who want to see the U.S. fundamentally change its relationship with Israel. Now that we're approaching the 2-year anniversary of October 7th, I think Trump really wants to be able to tell not only his supporters, but the American public at large that he was able to bring peace to Gaza. What this peace looks like, we'll see. But I think this is important to Trump's overall messaging right now.
Mr. Giorgio Cafiero, it's good to see you. We'll have to end it there. Thank you for talking to us today.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
The United States has launched yet another deadly strike on what it called narco-terrorist vessel off the coast of Venezuela. According to the Trump administration, 4 individuals aboard the ship identified by the White House as narco-terrorists were killed in the attack. On X, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said that the operation was personally authorized by President Donald Trump. Hegseth called the attack a lethal kinetic strike on what U.S. claims was a narco-trafficking vessel affiliated with designated terrorist organizations. Early in a formal notification to Congress, President Trump declared that the United States is engaged in a non-international armed conflict with these cartels. Now, according to reports, the document was briefed to lawmakers this week by the Pentagon's top attorney amid rising legal questions over the U.S. strikes on suspected drug traffickers at sea. The Trump administration has designated several of these drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and specifically designated global terrorists. This designation puts the cartels in the same legal category as terrorist groups such as Al Qaeda and the Islamic State. By labeling these groups as terrorists, the administration argues it gains the legal authority to use military force under the law of armed conflict. The U.S. military is actively targeting several vessels suspected of carrying drugs for criminal groups, including the South American gang Tren de Aragua. In the past month, at least 3 suspected drug boats have been destroyed and 17 people have died in these operations. The administration describes those killed as unlawful combatants. President Trump has also said the U.S. is considering expanding strikes against cartels moving by land in Venezuela. This marks a sharp increase in U.S. efforts to combat the flow of narcotics through the Caribbean. Pentagon officials and the Trump administration say that conventional interdiction efforts have failed, making military action necessary to protect American lives. Some Democrats in Congress and legal experts argue the strikes may violate both international and U.S. law, emphasizing the absence of formal congressional approval and concerns about due process. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has condemned the strikes, calling them extrajudicial killings and acts of aggression. Amid these tensions, Venezuela has accused the U.S. of illegally flying F-35 fighter jets near its coast. Venezuelan officials call the flights a provocation and a violation of international law. Munich airport was forced to halt operations on Friday night following reports of suspected drone sightings, disrupting dozens of flights and affecting thousands of passengers. Munich airport announced it had to cancel all air traffic from 9:30 p.m. local time due to unconfirmed drone sightings. 23 incoming flights were diverted while 12 flights bound for Munich were cancelled. 46 departures were either delayed or cancelled, leaving a total of 6,500 passengers stranded. This marks the second consecutive night of disturbances at Germany's second-largest airport. On Thursday night, 30 flights were cancelled, leaving nearly 3,000 passengers stranded after drones were spotted near the airport. Apart from Munich airport, drones were also spotted near the towns of Freising and Erding, which is home to a German military airfield, raising concerns about security. German Interior Minister called the incidents a wake-up call on the emerging drone threat and stressed the need for increased funding and research into drone defense systems at both the national and European levels. Moreover, Germany revealed efforts by Russia to track and potentially disrupt satellites used by its military, prompting a significant investment of 35 billion euros into outer space defense by 2030. Denmark, Norway, Poland, Romania and Estonia also experienced similar incidents recently. In Denmark, authorities accused Moscow of waging a hybrid war aimed at creating uncertainty. On the other hand, Swiss military has announced plans to acquire defense systems specifically designed to counter mini drones. Meanwhile, the UK reported repeated attempts by Russian forces to jam British military satellites, raising alarm about the growing threat in space-based operations. Officials described these electronic attacks as a persistent effort by Moscow to interfere with surveillance and communications satellites. Amid the ongoing drone incursions and satellite interference, European nations are now planning to build an anti-drone wall to protect critical infrastructure and maintain airspace security. In France, political parties are still at loggerheads over a highly contested budget bill. The political climate remains uncertain, with the newly appointed Prime Minister who still does not have a cabinet. Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has made an attempt at diffusing political tension and anger against the proposed austerity measures in the 2026 budget plan. During an address early in the day, Lecornu announced that he will not use special powers to force the budgets through Parliament.
I think we are in the most parliamentary moment of the Fifth Republic. But for that, each deputy must be able to have power, to have responsibility, to take on their responsibilities. Ultimately, that's what prevents us from moving forward. It's the ability for the debate to start. And so I have decided to forego Article 49, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution. Since this article essentially allows the government to interrupt debates, to engage the government's responsibility, and for the government to write the script.
Opposition parties have reacted to the Prime Minister's latest announcement with either cautious optimism or straight criticism. Leader of far-right National Rally Party welcomed the announcement, but say that the party will still be taking a wait-and-watch approach. On the other hand, the French Communist Party has termed Lecornu's revocation order as, quote, trickery.
If there is no Article 49.3, but we cannot amend a text, if we cannot table an amendment to repeal or suspend the pension reform or increase pensions, it is trickery, it is not possible, and therefore we will not accept it.
While a political deadlock over France's budget bill persists, there is anger on the streets. France witnessed a general strike on Thursday as thousands stepped out in the nationwide protest. The rallies came in response to trade unions urging action against plans for sharp spending cuts in next year's budget. 2025 seems to be a very good year for Donald Trump, well, at least for his wealth. His closest allies are now singing in chorus, "Let's make Trump wealthy again." They're not just partnering in Trump and his family's businesses, they're now looking at bringing in more investors. The son of U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, Zach, wants to make the Trump family's real estate portfolio available as tokens on blockchain. Why? To give access to a wider pool of investors to the Trump family portfolio. Here's a report.
A decade ago, Trump said, "I'm the most successful person ever to run. I have a Gucci store that's worth more than Romney." Back then, that might have been a bit of an exaggeration. But now, that is a reality. And that is largely because of his business interests being a president-forming policies. No American president in modern history has ever managed to make so much fortune for his family while serving as head of the state. Over the last year, beginning slightly after the election, he stirred up new businesses with a special focus on cryptos. Those ventures are making money for the president, but how much? According to Forbes' calculations, crypto ventures have made Trump about $1 billion, lifting his net worth to an estimated $5.6 billion. Now that is more than double from just a year ago when his net worth was just $2.1 billion. During his first term, Trump's wealth actually fell. However, this time around, there is a clear spike in his wealth. Much of that surge in Trump's fortune has come because of him being the president and his crypto businesses, of course. More importantly, Trump's closest allies have helped him in the process. Now, Zach Witkoff would like to make the Trump family more money. How? Giving access to a wider pool of investors by tokenizing the Trump family's real estate portfolio on blockchain. A larger investor base would mean a higher asset price and in turn a surge in their wealth. Zach is the son of U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff. He's also the founder of World Liberty Financial, together with the Trump family. Now, speaking alongside Donald Trump Jr. at an event in Singapore, Witkoff said, "The Trump family has one of the most exciting real estate asset portfolios in the world." He added, "What if I told you that you could, go on an exchange and buy one token of Trump Tower Dubai?" Trump family's real estate businesses include golf courses and luxury hotels around the world. Tokenizing them would mean one thing: more money for the Trump family. Business Bureau, WION World is one.
In your sports this morning, Novak Djokovic has made a winning start to his Shanghai Masters campaign with a straight sets win over Marin Cilic. The Serbian is chasing a record-extending fifth title in Shanghai. 38-year-old Djokovic is playing his first tournament since the US Open and had to dig deep at times against his 37-year-old opponent. The combined age of Djokovic and Cilic was 75 years and 139 days, which makes it the highest combined age of two opponents in an ATP Masters 1000 main draw match. 24-time Grand Slam champion Djokovic was tested by the Croatian, but it took the first set in a tiebreak. Djokovic broke the former US Open champion's serve in the third game of the second set, and while number 5 Djokovic then held on to seal a 7-6, 6-4 triumph.
Yeah, very pleased. Tons of respect for Marin and all he has achieved and who he is as a person. We get along very well off the court and obviously speak the same language. We've known each other for so many years, and we haven't played for, I think, maybe last time was 3 years ago. So, great to see him back playing at this level. For me, I did struggle to find my rhythm, I think, from baseline.
Thank you for watching this Saturday's edition of Wild DNA on WION World is One. Stay with us.
The Earth is sending distress signals. wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
On Inside South Asia this week, cricket field turns into battleground. India-Pakistan sports diplomacy hopes crumble. Pakistan occupied Kashmir on the boil again. Islamabad unleashes its oldest suppression brutalities.
Nara, 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 Kashmir!
And Nepal has a new living goddess. 2-year-old Aryatara steps into divinity. This and much more on Inside South Asia.
This week on the West Asia Post. Israel is on alert against Iran, preparing for strikes that could ignite another regional war. Yemen's Houthis intensified their assaults, hit a Dutch ship in the Gulf of Aden and warn US oil majors of more strikes. Iraq's children are forced to abandon classrooms as poverty and the aftermath of war push little ones into hard labor.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
This week on the West Asia Post. Israel is on alert against Iran, preparing for strikes that could ignite another regional war. Yemen's Houthis intensified their assaults, hit a Dutch ship in the Gulf of Aden and warn US oil majors of more strikes. Iraq's children are forced to abandon classrooms as poverty and the aftermath of war push little ones into hard labor.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
As the world revisits Mahatma Gandhi's legacy, we decode the different depictions of India's father of the nation on screen.
Hello sir, police भर्ती का रिजल्ट कब तक आएगा?
Meet Indian actor Vishal Jetwa as he talks about Homebound's big journey to Oscars. And rejoice in the celebrations of Indian festivals with musical duos Salim and Suleiman Merchant. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Welcome back to WION The World is One. We are glad you're watching. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Eric Njoka. Our top stories at this hour. One-man inquiry commission headed by Guwahati High Court Judge Justice Soumitra Saikia will head the Judicial Commission to inquire into the facts and circumstances leading to the death of singer Zubin Garg. Imran Khan's party alleges that former Pakistan Prime Minister is held in solitary confinement since August 2023, with his cell door remaining closed at all times, denying him human contact, electricity and newspapers. Netanyahu's office says Israel is seeking immediate implementation of Donald Trump's plan to free Israeli hostages in Gaza after Hamas said it was ready for peace talks.
I want to thank the countries that helped me put this together: Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and so many others.
Trump hails Hamas's statement and thanks Arab nations including Qatar, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Jordan for mediating. Calls it a big day, saying he looks forward to the release of hostages. Munich airport forced to suspend air traffic over suspected drone sightings for the second consecutive night. Disruption leads to cancellation of dozens of flights, affecting more than 6,000 passengers. President Zelensky accuses Russia of launching major attack on Ukraine's gas facilities just before heating season, says 35 missiles, including ballistic ones, were used in the strike, calls for Russia to be held accountable. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says U.S. forces carry out strike on alleged drug smuggling boat off the coast of Venezuela, killing 4 people, which brings the number of such attacks to 4, leaving at least 21 people dead. Japan's ruling party to pick its 5th leader in 5 years under pressure from rising anti-immigration party. Frontrunners are China hawk Sanai Takaichi, who could be the first female prime minister, and inexperienced but popular Shinjiro Koizumi. U.S. government shutdown has entered its 3rd day and political blame game over it continues. But livelihood of thousands is at stake, from workers to program beneficiaries. On Thursday, the U.S. Senate adjourned the session after discussions and no vote on the occasion of Yom Kippur, a Jewish holiday. Lawmakers remain divided over a House-passed bill to extend funding for 7 weeks. Senators will take up the stopgap bill and also the Democratic alternative for votes in a few hours from now. Democrat lawmakers are blaming the Trump administration for government shutdown, accusing the Red Camp of not opening dialogue on issues concerning the Blue Camp, primarily Medicaid and other health programs for low-income Americans.
Republicans have shut the government down because they don't want to provide health care to working-class Americans. House Democrats continue to be here, on duty. House Republicans are on vacation. We are ready, we are willing, we are able to sit down with anyone, anytime, any place, including the president and the vice president. to try to find a path forward, to reopen the government, enact a spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people, while at the same time addressing the Republican health care crisis.
The Republicans, on the other hand, blame their political rivals for rejecting the stopgap bill to keep the government functioning. As shutdown drags on, Donald Trump is considering cutting thousands of federal jobs and shut down federal programs that are favored by Democrats.
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault, and it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So you could say, a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this closing, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place. And I will probably do that.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the administration is reviewing agencies that do not align with its priorities, calling some a waste of taxpayer dollars. As the partisan rift increases over policies, federal staff whose jobs are on the line is paying the price on shutdown. Staffers furloughed or discharged due to funding crisis say they are paralyzed.
We are essentially paralyzed and without any way to fight back in a real-time sense. And they know that. And 90% of this game is like psychological warfare. They know that people are scared. They know that people want to come back because they want to work. They want to do the work that they're doing, but they also got to feed their families.
Tensions are rising once again in West Asia. Israel is warning of renewed conflict with Iran, signaling that the uneasy calm may soon shatter. The region braces for what could be another devastating chapter in their relentless struggle. Here's a report.
Israel says it will no longer tolerate shadows and threats from Iran. A senior IDF assessment warns that the campaign against Iran is not over. Every missile, every base, every proxy is in the crosshairs.